Hello, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about planning and documents. This is the Industry Insider session number one, specifically for STEM, so data, engineering, technology, and business sectors. I'm Amelie. I'm a senior who's studying business and a minor in applied analytics. I interned at PwC last summer, where I was an SAP technology consultant. Originally from LA, also from the Netherlands. I like to play soccer. I'm an avid cook, yogi. I like to hike, all fun things. And what's up for me next? Probably returning to PwC in 2026, but we're going to see about that. These are the different sessions. This first one is about planning and documents. So let's start off with the planning portion. How do you know what job to apply for? And I feel like this section is often overlooked because people think that they know exactly what companies they want to work for or exactly what positions that they're going to apply to. But sometimes you actually don't know yourself as good as you think. So we're going to go through a little exercise to probably that will help you establish what you might want to do. So start off with your personal passions and interests. So what would you do all day if nothing was stopping you and money didn't matter? So maybe this is playing video games, maybe this is playing a sport, cooking, any type of hobbies that you have, just think of those. Second step is to think about your hard skills. So what are you good at? And so this could be, math. That's an easy one, or coding. Or it could be talking to people, presenting, brainstorming, you're creative. Just think of anything that you're innately good at and that comes naturally to you. And then lastly, now think about your experiences. So this could be what you've learned in school. It could be classes you've taken, work you've done, companies you've worked at, maybe clubs that you're a part of, or even just life experiences in general. So this could be a project, for example, in a class that you did that you took the lead on. Just something that you've done in your life that you're proud of, and that kind of hones some of those skills that you were good at. So now the combination of these three things should give you an indication of what type of industry you should be interested in. So playing video games, for example, this might be something that you're like, why is this relevant? But playing video games is something where your brain is constantly on, you're thinking agilely, you're on the ball, Because so that could be something where maybe you want to be in a smaller company, maybe you like a more dynamic industry. So just take a moment to think about how these things might tie together for you. So next, now that you have a kind of vague idea of what interests you, think about the types of companies and types of roles. So for companies themselves, this isn't just the name. Apple's a great company, but is it something that you would really want to work for? You don't know that unless you look at these little things that maybe you haven't thought about before. For example, do they have the DEI efforts that you're interested in? Maybe you really want to be part of a women's program or a diversity program in some way, and they might not have that available, and that could be a deal breaker to you. Also, what type of softwares do they use for their daily work? Are they a Microsoft company or a Google company? Maybe that's a deal breaker for you. Maybe you hate Microsoft or maybe you hate Google. So Google Suite. So just think about those kind of things. Also, office locations. Maybe they don't have offices in a place that you would actually want to live, or maybe they're global or not. Maybe they don't even sponsor visas. Like these are things that you need to be thinking about before you apply, because if you apply to a company that you won't be happy at, then that's just going to be a bad situation in general. For roles, this has a lot of different factors to it. Obviously, location is huge, especially after COVID, now that we have remote work. Is that something that you would actually be interested in? And if so, do they offer a role that has remote availability? Um, Team dynamics within the role is actually very interesting. This is something that's hard to figure out without talking to people at the company, which we'll get into in our networking session. But are you going to be someone who's heavily managed or heavily micromanaged, told exactly what to do every day? Or are you going to have kind of more jurisdiction over the type of work that you're going to be doing? Also, are you going to be working directly with your teammates, or is this more of an individual role where you report to someone and you do everything more on your own? These are things that you got to figure out. What do you like and what do you want out of your job? Okay, so now we're going to be looking at jobs. There's Handshake and LinkedIn, I would say, are the two main, especially for college students. We're going to go through some pros and cons for each. For Handshake, we're going to start with that. Pros, very easy to navigate. It also is very clear. And if you qualify for the job, especially if you have your Handshake profile filled out, which I'll show you. And it's also personalized. So based on your interests that you can select, it'll show you those jobs. However, oftentimes you can't apply directly in Handshake and it'll take you to an external source. And that's just kind of another step in the process, which can sometimes be annoying. Also, it's harder to find the contacts of the recruiters or the people who work at the company to be able to reach out to them, which is actually one of the pros of LinkedIn. So those go hand in hand. And it's also not every job out there. Companies actually have to select to post a handshake, which means not every company will do that. So this is what your handshake would look like if you were to look on the Jobs tab. So to start, make sure that you turn on that little toggle that says notify me about new jobs like this after you've searched very specifically for something that you want. So as you can see here, I've filtered by location, also for a full-time role, and I probably searched something specific like consulting. Once you've done that and you have a very detailed search of something, if you toggle this on, you'll get emails whenever a new job is posted within those constraints. So this is super helpful, so you don't have to constantly be checking. Also, this inbox feature on Handshake is critical, especially for younger students. You'll often get messages from employers who are holding events on campus, who have early applications to programs for specific school years. This is just a great place to monitor to make sure that you're on top of everything that's going on and opportunities available to you. Also, another huge positive to Handshake is this little at a glance section. It'll tell you kind of the TLDR, too long didn't read, of the post. And you can easily eliminate things if it doesn't fit the category that you want. For example, if you need US work authorization for this job and you don't have that, then you can just skip past it very easily without having to try to find those requirements in the description. Okay, now to LinkedIn. For these pros, it's very easy to find, as I mentioned before, employees and recruiters that are at this company, so you can reach out to them. So LinkedIn's really great with networking in relation to the job postings. There's also a lot of information. So there's like millions of job postings on LinkedIn. Also, the notification feature is possible on LinkedIn. You can get super granular with this, so this is definitely a positive. However, because of all this information, it can get overwhelming, and oftentimes companies forget to delete their posts on LinkedIn just because LinkedIn is a very general job board. So you might see posts that are outdated. And just hand in hand to this, it's a little hard to navigate. So I'm just going to show you a little bit about it. So here's a search that I did on the job site on LinkedIn for a data analyst in LA. And so as you can see, you can set an alert again, just like on Handshake, which you totally should do. You can also see this very important feature of how many of your school alumni have worked at that place. And this is huge for networking. We're going to get into that next week or at the next session, but these are the type of people that you would be wanting to look out for. And it's so easy to see how many people have gone to your school, work at that company, and these are potentially people that you can reach out to and will probably get a higher response rate than if you just reach out to anyone. Also, right at the top, it shows that kind of at a glance as well. But the cool thing here are the skills. This is a really easy way to see, okay, am I a right fit for this job just on the bare bones of what I'm capable of? And it also sees what they expect. So if they expect a lot of different languages that you simply just don't know, then that's a good sign that you probably shouldn't apply because you're not going to get the job. So it's just really easy at a glance to see what you're kind of gonna kind of be in the market for when you apply for this job and potentially get an interview. Okay, so when you're applying to jobs, I highly recommend you create a tracker, something like this. These are very random job postings, but this is just a general idea of something that I did. I think this was freshman year when I was applying to jobs for the following summer. So first, I made sure that I had all of the dates and deadlines for each of the job postings if they were posted like that, just because it's hard to lose, it's easy to lose track of when things are due, especially if you're applying to dozens of jobs. I also specified the product or the role of the actual internship. And I also had like a little reference link if necessary. Um, it's really important to make sure that you're writing the exact name of the role because sometimes the link does not work because they moved it on their site or for whatever reason it doesn't work. If you copy and paste the exact like long name of the role, then it might be easier for you to find later on. Also, if you have any call notes with anybody who works at the company or you networked at all, it'd be super helpful to make sure that you have those notes readily available under this information so that you can return to it when you're crafting your cover letter or doing something like that to be able to reference. And also definitely save the links, even if they don't become outdated. It's really helpful just in case you need to find the posting later. And this is the other side of the tracker of applications I applied to and then like what happened afterwards. As you can see, you get rejected from a lot, so that's okay. And it's really good to keep track of a lot of different elements here. Number one, cover letters. Not every application requires one, but I would always, if you're interested in a job posting, say like you're going to start your application, just to scroll through to see if they require a cover letter or if they accept one. And if they do, then make note of that because oftentimes it's the day before you're like, oh, I want to apply to this. Then you realize they need a cover letter and then you're scrambling. It's better if you know that in advance so you can plan to write it. Also prioritize them. You're going to be applying to a lot of things and you're also probably very busy. So make sure that you know which ones you definitely want to get the application in for. Also, it's really useful to help track when you applied, like the exact date, and then also if you were rejected, just so that you can understand if you need to follow up or if you are going to contact a recruiter and ask for an update on your application, you can reference the month or at least even the day that you applied, and it's really helpful if you have that at top of mind. Okay, second section are about documents. So this is exactly how you apply. You know what job you want, you know the role, you're clicking that apply. How do you get ready for that? Starting off with resumes, what everybody loves. So high-level facts is format matters. Use the Marshall template, even if you're not in Marshall. This is a copy of what it looks like. It is super clean, and this is what everybody loves to see. Okay, bottom line, one page. Do not go over one page. If you're over a page, they are not going to even look at it. Number two, smallest point font should be about 10. Do not go lower than this because otherwise it's really hard to read. Also at the bottom, the skills and interests section. A lot of people do not include this because they don't think it's as important as like work experience. Always include this, it is a must. Also, you can list your GPA, but you also don't actually have to. So I would list it if it's a 3.0 or higher. Also at the top, always include your LinkedIn URL. This will make you stand out against anybody who doesn't. And lastly, it's really important to actually tailor your resume to the job. You're not only writing your cover letter per job, but I would say you should also kind of tailor the resume so you can go through the experiences or leadership involvement sections and include words that maybe the job description included, and just make sure it's relevant to the job that you're applying to. So let's go through each section here, starting at the top. Always include your USC email, not your personal email when you're a student, just because it shows professionalism. Also, for your LinkedIn profile link, don't do the whole HTTPS:// like, no, just do a simple link, which is always in the format of linkedin.com/in/ and then your handle, which is usually your name. Also, you can put honors under your education section if there is space and if it makes sense. For example, Dean's List is actually something I wouldn't include because if you have a high enough GPA, that's kind of an obvious no-brainer, but scholarships here would definitely make sense. For relevant coursework, the keyword is relevant. If you're putting your random GEs you've taken, nobody cares. So make sure that you have like relevant skills. And so, for example, business communication, that's something that they would probably want in someone. So the fact that they know that you've taken it is a positive. So only include classes you've taken that really make sense for the job that you're applying for. For the work experience section, this one is obviously huge. Number one, do 3 to 5 experiences, no more, no less. I mean, less if you don't have that, that's totally fine, but don't go overboard on like 6 different experiences. 5 is also a lot, like maybe 4 cap would be more realistic for people. Also for the bullet points, 4 max, but as you can see under the Adobe experience, that's 4 bullet points and they're pretty short. So if you have longer bullet points, like make sure you're only doing 2 to 3 at that point. Just don't put too much under each experience is kind of the point there. Also, for each bullet point themselves, no more than 2 lines, which is totally fine, but 1 line is usually preferred. And then also just kind of semantics, order from the most recent to the least recent, just because they care more about what you've done recently than they care about what you've done in the past. Also, if you presently work there, make sure you're using those present tense verbs. So instead of saying developed, maybe say like developing, something like that, just to show that like you truly do work there because oftentimes they'll see that and they see that you're working there presently and then you're using only past tense and they're like, is this a lie? It seems really simple, but just make sure those little things are correct. So when you're actually writing the bullet points, make sure you're using a lot of action verbs and that they match the job description. So if the job is asking you to collaborate a lot, then make sure you use the word collaborate somewhere on the resume. That's a good example. Also, make sure they're not all the same. So it's a good exercise to kind of, after you've written it, Go through this, even highlight all the words that you've used to describe what you've done, and make sure not all of them are the same. It's really easy to fall into the trap of always saying, I evaluated, I analyzed, like over and over for every job experience. Even here, developed was used in every single one, so maybe changing one of those words would be helpful. Also, as many numbers as possible where it makes sense. So if you can quantify the impact that you made or what you did, that's huge. But also, if it's something where it doesn't make sense to include a number, don't force it because then that's even worse. So it's walking a fine line here, but in general, make sure that you're being as specific as possible in the impact that you created. Also, in the way that you structure the bullet point, start with what you actually did, so your action, and quantify that as possible. And then, arguably, even more important is what is the result? What is the impact of what you did from the action? So, how did the company benefit from what you did? This is huge because if someone's going to hire you, they want to make sure that you've made an impact before and that when they pay you, those dollars are going to good use. Next section is about leadership and involvement, which is also huge for college students. So, if you're in a club, indicate the highest leadership position that you're in. You can have multiple. So, for example, here this person was a member and then a mentor, which shows progression in the club. If you don't have space for that, though, just do the highest. Also, be very specific. Sometimes people in clubs don't really know what to put, but if you worked on a project or if you led some type of effort or like some organizational donation fundraiser or something like that, include it and be really specific on the money you raised or the effort that you did, the company that you worked with or for. This is just another way to be kind of tangible with your impact. Also, this is your chance to show that you're well-rounded. So if you're in an intramural sports team and you have some space, add it because it shows that you're not just what you do at work and that you're a real person. The last section, which definitely include, like I said before, are skills and interests. So make sure you include any specific technical skills and as many as you can. Fit is great. Also, in the job description, if it asks for a technical skill and you obviously have it, assuming that, put it on the resume. Like this is exactly what they're going to be looking for in any technical role. Without that, then they're just going to pass you right over. Also, if the job description requires any specific skills, like make sure they're on there. So this is not just technical. This could be like using a certain software or being a team player, maybe you write leadership, like just make sure you're really honing in on what they want. And for interest, this is where you want to be niche and specific and kind of show your personality. This is really a conversation starter for the interviewer at the end of the day. Like if they see that you like a specific sports team or you like doing something like you have a hobby that they think is cool, they're going to ask you about it. So this is the place to go. Super nerd, it doesn't really matter. Whatever you're interested in, you can put there. So this is just a helpful tool that USC provides, VMock. It is basically a way to screen your resume as if AI was screening it, and it shows you how good it is. So I would highly recommend doing this before you apply to anything. Okay, next session are about cover letters. So at a high level, again, only one page. Address the hiring manager. I mean, oftentimes people are like, try to find the hiring manager's name. It's really hard to do that, and oftentimes you don't know who your hiring manager is. I think 99% of the time, just write Dear Hiring Manager, because it's even worse if you put their name and then it's the wrong person, and whoever's reading it is like, I'm not that person. So just be safe by writing Dear Hiring Manager. For the structure, a little short introduction, 2 to 3 paragraphs or one large paragraph with bullet points, however you want to structure it with your experiences, and then your last tiny little conclusion. Also, I would say a good rule of thumb is to make 2 to 3 versions of your cover letter for the 2 to 3 different job types. So, for example, if you're applying to a financial analyst versus a data analyst versus a growth person or like a software person, like those are kind of different rules that would warrant a different type of cover letter. So, I, as a rule of thumb, always keep around 3 different versions where I can obviously tweak like the company itself and then also the experiences a little bit to tie into what they want in their own company. But it's way easier when you have one tailored to the type of realm that you're applying to versus one general one where you have to do a lot of tweaks for each role. Also, this is a great opportunity to talk about people that you've talked to at the company. So, for example, let's say you had a networking meeting with someone at this company, but you didn't get a referral from them. You can totally mention it in the cover letter, and that's a great way to kind of cheat your way into getting a referral. So starting with this introduction, first of all, introduce yourself. So your name, your school, your major, your minor, and the position you're applying for. Super simple. That's usually like one or two sentences. And then if applicable, this is where you can put the reference. So this is an example of a sentence that you can use. It's basically just saying that it's a sneaky way of saying that I talked to this person and they basically told me I'm a good fit and this is why I should get this job. The goal here is for them to see the sentence and then go contact that person and be like, hey, did you talk to them? And get a good, like, be like, oh, yeah, that person was great, whatever. Like, that's what you want. So make sure you're only putting people here that you've talked to that like you and that you had a positive experience with and who will remember you if the company were to go ask them. Here's another way that you could say that. Okay, for the body paragraphs. First, start with the job description and pick some of the bullet points and what they're looking for. So pick the few things that they are asking for within a candidate that you think you are the best at. Then select a work experience or some experience in your life that you've had that aligns really well and shows that you can do what they're asking for. And then show why it aligns. So describe, let's say, for example, you had a job on your resume and you're going to use that job as an example of why you'd be a good fit for this company. Okay, you already have that on your resume. They've already seen your resume. This is your chance to write detailed sentences that are different from your resume, where it's only a short bullet point. So make sure you're not just copy and pasting from your resume, like give them more information than what they already know about you. You also want to be tangible and specific here, just like on your resume. And the most important part is to tie it back into how it affects the company or the role specifically. So how is the company going to benefit from those experiences that you've had? So at the end of each paragraph, it should reference the role itself. So let's say, for example, that you said that you've had an experience as an analyst at a previous company where you analyzed a lot of data in Excel, and you know you would be a good fit for this company who has a very large database of data, and you're obviously very comfortable with data, right? So the end of the paragraph should be something like, and due to my experiences with large quantities of data in the past, I'm confident that I will be able to handle, the complex matrix of your data, whatever, something like along those lines, right? Like you're showing that you have confidence in your ability, you know why, you're giving them a reason as to why you know you would be a good fit or good at this job. Again, like I said, do not just repeat your resume. And for the conclusion, this is a short paragraph, 2 to 3 sentences. Usually it's about one, wrapping up like your skills, like I'm confident that I would be able to excel in this role or something like that. One thing I like to include here is if the company has some type of diversity program that I'm interested in, or they clearly are a champion of something that I'm related to, I would put the sentence here like right after the wrapping up of the skills. And then one sentence for the consideration. So thank you so much for your time. Look forward to hearing from you. Something like that, something just cordial because it is in fact a letter. So just make sure you have like a nice sentence at the end and you don't just abruptly stop saying, please give me this job, because that might sound a little bad. Okay, last section is about your LinkedIn profile. So the most important notes here is that you should have one. Also be a registered USC student. So register with your USC email under your profile, or if you already created it under a different email, if you add your email under your school, it'll ask for a verification. You can also look this up, but just make sure that you're a verified USC student. Also just fill out as much as possible. And with regarding connections, especially in Marshall, it's so exciting to have 500 plus connections. Connections are a huge thing. It's actually better to have quality connections over quantity. So especially when you're younger and you don't have that many connections, that's okay. As long as if you know every connection, that matters. So you're going to slowly build it up over time. But just make sure quality over quantity. Don't just connect with random people. Also engage. If you can interact with once a week, even if this is just liking someone's post, this is big. It helps the algorithm. LinkedIn's kind of like social media, so algorithms do exist. This is also a chance to extend on your resumes. Write everything in here that you didn't get a chance to on your resume. So here's a little checklist of what you should have. So starting off for your photo, make sure it's professional. If you don't have a headshot, you can go to the Career Center. They'll give you a free headshot. Also, make sure you mention USC somewhere in your headline, and a work experience if it's a company name that's pretty big or something that describes yourself. So you can call yourself some type of leader, or you can say, USC Viterbi master's student, like whatever it is. And then you can write X, whatever company you worked at, or you could say like analyst at whatever company you currently work at, something like that. For the summary section, this is actually a place that people don't really care about. They usually just say like, hi, my name is blah, 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 and this is kind of what I do. You can treat this almost like on your college applications when you have to write your personal statement, like some crazy story or like something that's super unique about yourself that's made you into the person you are. If you want to go for it, like this is the place to do it. And I know it feels cringe and everything about LinkedIn sometimes feels cringe, but I'm telling you, you can get jobs from LinkedIn. Like every single job I've gotten, they've commented on how much they've liked my LinkedIn. So I'm telling you, it is worth it. Even if you don't want to write something crazy here, write a short little paragraph on like why you're unique, and you'll immediately stand out by doing that. For your work experiences, you can include all of them. So let's say you participated in some type of like freshman program with a big bank or something, or you did some diversity seminar or something. That's not something you'd put on your resume, but you can totally put that here. And that's just another place that they can see what you've done. For your clubs and stuff, if you had a position, you can outline more about what that position entailed. You can also show your trajectory of first I was a member, then I was the VP, etc. And this is a cool place for if you have like a PDF or a slideshow or something or a video about like what you did with this club. And obviously, if it's not under an NDA or something, totally put that here because it shows that you're not just lying and you actually have something to prove for like what you did. For the skills section, this is really important in LinkedIn actually, because remember when I said on LinkedIn Jobs how there's a little skills section? LinkedIn Jobs will actually connect you more or like advertise jobs that have similar skills to what you have in your profile. So just go crazy and put like as many skills as possible on your profile that are relevant to you so that you show up on more of those job postings. Another section I want to include are recommendations. So a lot of people don't really know that this even exists, but at the very bottom, there's a recommendation section. It's basically kind of like a referral or a recommendation letter that you would ask for if you apply to something, but on your profile permanently, which is huge because anybody then can see your past employers or past colleagues, saying all these amazing things about you, and then they can also click on that person's profile and verify that, oh yeah, this person is a manager at this company, right? So this is just an amazing place for you to have something that'll make you stand out amongst everybody else if a recruiter were to look at it. So I would definitely try to request a recommendation on LinkedIn from as many as the people you've worked with in the past as possible, honestly. Usually like one per job that you've had is a good rule of thumb. Okay, the last thing I want to mention here after we finish all of this is that you are not defined by your job. It's very easy to get lost in the idea of, oh my gosh, like I need this big job at this big company, like everybody has this, whatever. It doesn't matter. Like you're just on track, you're doing your best. So if you do all these things that I've talked about, you should be in a pretty good place. But again, here are some examples of rejections that I've gotten among countless others. So doesn't matter, how good of a job you end up with, you're going to get a lot of rejection. So just know that you're not defined by that. And if you ever want to email me and ask me any specific questions, you totally can, or connect with me on LinkedIn. It's just my name. Thank you.